discussing the literary sources of ancient Indian political thought. The basic objective of this module is to give you an understanding of the origin of political ideas and institutions in ancient India, to give you an insight into the major texts where political ideas' precepts have been elaborated. This topic would familiarize you as to how Indian tradition of political thought developed amid centuries of exposition of political ideas and principles based on ethics and morality. Students, for the convenience of our understanding, let us divide this topic into a number of segments. We would first start with what is political thought? How did independent Indian political thought developed? What are the major sources that shaped the development of Indian political tradition? Now we would be analyzing the major literary texts. This entire discussion would give you a glimpse of the socio-economic and political system prevalent in ancient India, being highlighted through the writings of Indian theorists. Now, students, before we move on to the understanding of literary sources, let us first start with the basic concept. What is political thought? Just like the Western political thought is rich in traditions and ideas, in the same way, students, Indian political thought also has a rich history. Indian thought has a historical lineage spanning thousands of centuries. But the popularity of the ideas put forth by theorists like Kautilya, Manu, Shukra, Brihaspati, these ideas put forth by these political theorists also give us an idea of political principles prevalent in ancient India. The richness of political ideas explicated by ancient thinkers at the beginning of the Aryan civilization are applicable even today in this contemporary world. Therefore, it is interesting to understand the concept of political thought in India. We know that political thought reflects the civilizational life of the people, the nature of law and order, socio-political system, relationship between the ruler and the ruled. While Plato's Republic and Aristotle's Politics gives us an idea about the socio-political order in Greece, Indian thought also projects ideas and principles laid down by Indian thinkers. The next important question, students. Why do we need to study ancient Indian political thought? It would facilitate our understanding of political ideas and theories in two ways. It would give us a knowledge of the past, the ideas and institutions, as well as the concrete political activity in terms of continuities and discontinuities. So how did the different concepts develop in India? Rajadharma, political obligation, punishment. How these theories develop in ancient India? Secondly, studying ancient Indian political thought will also give us an understanding by sharpening our points of similarities and differences between the past and the present. It is important to understand that the present problems has to be analyzed and examined, keeping in mind our roots and history. Now, Indian political thought, students, owes its development to a variety of influences. This is so because Indian society and tradition is a product of a history of 3,000 years and more. Broadly speaking, students, we can divide the influences on ancient thought, or rather Indian political thought, based on 4 areas. The first, Aryan Dravidian acculturation, the Aryan invasion in India, the development of a political tradition, monarchical form of government, statecraft, interstate relationship. All these ideas developed during the Aryan civilization. When we'll be studying the literary sources, we would be analyzing the various texts which originated during this time and how those texts captured the rich political tradition. Second is the Jain and Buddhist protest movement for reforms that occurred around the 5th, 6th century. The Buddhist and the Jain protest movements were basically against Brahmanical supremacy. They rejected the caste ritualistic orientation of the Aryan civilization. So this protest against Brahmanical supremacy gave rise to a different political tradition. We call it Buddhism and Jainism. Though they might occur to be religious movements, yet they also explicate a new tradition of political thought. The third influence refers to the Islamic invasion in India, the Hindu-Muslim encounter, coexistence. If you look into the writings of Ziauddin Burni, Abul Fazl, you'll get an idea as to how Islamic political thought developed along an independent line of thinking. Ideas on kingship, administration, justice, law and order was also explored and elaborated in the various writings put forth by the Islamic theorists. The final influence on Indian thought was the British colonial rule, the Indian response to it, and the development of modern Indian political thought through the writings of Bankim Chandra, Rabindranath, Tilak, Gandhi, Ambedkar. However, students, there's one similarity in this entire process of development of ancient thought, medieval and modern, is the elaboration of the same concepts on statecraft, administration, and the justice delivery mechanism. Broadly speaking, students, Indian political thought can be categorized into 3 broad areas. Ancient Indian thought comprises of the Hindu and the Buddhist tradition. Medieval Indian thought comprises of the Muslim or Islamic tradition, basically the Delhi Sultanate administration and the Mughal rule. Modern Indian thought refers to the political ideas and writings which developed during and after the British rule. What are the key sources of Indian political thought? Broadly speaking, all the sources can be divided into 3 broad areas. Archaeological sources. Now, students, the archaeological sources can be derived from the stone and copper inscriptions, from the inscriptions on pillars, which give us an idea about the concepts, traditions prevalent in ancient India. The second source refers to the accounts by foreign travelers. Students, you are familiar with the writings of Megasthenes, Phaon, Huensang. The third and the most important source, literary sources, give us multiple and varied ideas about institutions prevalent in ancient India. Let us now come to the major literary sources of ancient political thought. The first one refers to the Vedas. Vedas are not political texts per se. They are philosophical texts, religious texts, but we can get political ideas from these texts. The Rig Veda is a collection of 1028 hymns, primarily for rituals and sacrifices. However, students, the Rig Veda also contains some political ideas. For example, students, the concept of Raja or king. India in ancient times, as the Vedic scriptures elaborate, was divided into a number of principalities headed by chieftains or rajas. These kings followed certain principles which would help them to foster state welfare, the greatest good of the greatest number. And the Rig Veda explicitly speaks about the need for the king to honor the happiness of the subjects. Apart from it, the Vedic scriptures also speak about the existence of two popular assemblies, the Sabha and the Samiti. The Sabha refers to an assembly of influential people to advise the king on important political matters. The Samiti, students, is a popular assembly. Now, what is important, students, here that these assemblies were created for aiding governance and statecraft. The scriptures, the Vedic scriptures, also speak about political decentralization. Just like we have the panchayat system today, we also get an idea about village being the basic unit of administration. The Gramini or Gramik was the head of the village. It was his responsibility to maintain a record of the activities in the village, the problems faced by the people, and in fact, we find examples of local assemblies where village people could assemble and discuss their problems and find out solutions. These Vedas, students, are not political texts, but despite being religious and philosophical texts, they contain rich ethical principles which aided the king in the governance of the kingdom. Now, students, we move on to another literary source, and that is the Dharma Shastras. The Dharma Shastras comprise of the Smriti literature. Smriti means that which is remembered. The Dharma Shastra literature is different from the Shruti literature, that is, the Vedas, Upanishads, Samahitas, Brahmanas, and Aranyakas. The Shruti literature refers to literature which is heard. The Dharma Shastras are essentially code books identifying and elaborating on principles of governance. They are basically code books to ensure to follow a certain way of life. Now, the Smriti literature is written by different scholars, and each Smriti literature owes its origin to a particular scholar. The most important are the Manu Smriti, Narad Smriti, Parashar Smriti, and Yagyavalkya Smriti. So here, the theorists and the Smriti literature focuses on what each Smriti writer views on state, kingship, relationship between the ruler and the ruled. Manu Smriti, it is also called the Manav Dharma Shastra. The text elaborates on duties of the king, Raj Dharma. It is interesting to note how Manu delves into the qualities of a king, how pedigree is important to select a ruler. What should be the functions of the king? Not just Raj Dharma, Manu Smriti also speaks about an elaborate legal system. It is interesting to note that thousands of years ago, when Manu Smriti was written, legal principles like civil and criminal law, contracts, theft, murder, all these crimes have been elaborated and defined. Manu speaks about the nature of punishment. Punishment should be as deserved. Not just law and order. Manu Smriti also speaks about interstate relations, diplomacy. He speaks about the importance of public opinion, how the king should be responsive to the needs and aspirations of the people. Thus, Manu Smriti is a compendium of law and governance. It is contemporary in its orientation. Coming to the next important source, students, epic literature. When we speak about the epic literature, we essentially focus on the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. The Ramayana speaks of the duties and responsibilities of an ideal ruler, relationship between the ruler and the ruled, and how ethics and morality should be the guiding principles of statecraft. While the Ramayana is more philosophical and theoretical, Mahabharata, the next epic, is more practical in orientation. While the Ramayana emphasizes only on the victor, the victory of good over evil, Mahabharata glorifies both the victor and the vanquished. Both the Pandavas and the Kauravas were projected in all their glories as well as their irregularities. The Shanti Parva of the Mahabharata, which is a discourse between Pitamaha Bhishma, lying on the bed of arrows on the battlefield awaiting his death, with Yudhishthir. It is a discourse on kingship, dharma, duties of the king during normal and abnormal times. Mahabharata also speaks about the importance of political obligation. It speaks about the right of the people to revolt against an unjust king. Students, isn't this interesting? In an age where the king was all in all, the king was considered to be a divine representative, Mahabharata explicitly sanctions revolt, saying that such a king should be killed like a mad dog, giving people the power to remove an arbitrary and despotic ruler. Mahabharata also speaks about good governance, speaks about state welfare, speaks about efficiency and effectiveness in governance. The next important text is the Arthashastra, Kautilya's Arthashastra. It is said to be the most interesting manual on good governance. It is a book which speaks about law, politics, economics, international relations. Let me give you a glimpse of the ideas put forth in the Arthashastra. Saptang theory, 7 organs of the state. Kautilya was of the view that all these organs are equally important to create a strong, powerful state. He speaks of 7 elements: Swami or the king, Amatya, the ministers and bureaucrats, Janpad, territory and population, Durga, system of fortresses, Kosh, treasury, Dand refers to army and the system of punishment, and Mitra, allies. All the 7 elements, if coordinated well, would lead to the creation of a powerful state. Kautilya also speaks about the theory of punishment, Danda Niti. Danda refers to the politics of coercion. Punishment, to Kautilya, should be as deserved, neither too less nor too more. It is Dand which keeps the people disciplined. Dand also refers to a strong and efficient military system. Apart from Dand Niti, Kautilya's Arthashastra also focuses on diplomacy and interstate relations. He advises the king to follow a prudent foreign policy, a policy which would be governed by self-interest. Kautilya opines that self-interest of any ruler, a weak or a strong, should be guided by 3 essentials: political self-interest, economic self-interest, and military self-interest. Kautilya also spoke about principles of good governance, state welfare, food security, security for the old and disabled, construction of roads, highways for better trade and commerce. He speaks about the need for ensuring happiness of the subjects. Now we move on to Buddhist writings, another principal literary source of ancient Indian thought. Buddhist writings and political ideas can be found in the Pitakas, Vinaya Pitaka, Sutta Pitaka, and Abhidhamma Pitakas. The Buddhist thought emerged as a reaction to Brahmanical supremacy and the caste system. The Buddhist writings emphasize on Dhamma, a principle of welfare, governance, and morality. It sought to create an egalitarian social system. Digha Nikaya, an important Buddhist text, speaks about the concept of Mahasammata, or the great elect. The king was to be elected. The Buddhist political tradition emphasizes on the election of a king. The Buddhist text also speaks about deliberative governance, importance on emphasizing on public opinion, being responsive to the needs of the people. Thus, the Buddhist scriptures emphasize on the need for accommodating differences as well as engaging with the people through a pluralistic political system. Coming to the Jain writing students, Jainism was essentially non-political, but that does not mean it was anti-political. The Jains also focused on the science of politics, but that was for protection of the good and control of the wicked. Emphasis was on the doctrine of equality. Somdev's Niti Vakyamritam emphasizes on the concept of good governance, principles of state welfare, and that ethics and morality should govern human life, social, political, as well as economic. Coming to the next text, Shukra Niti. Sage Shukra was the disciple of Bhrigu and the teacher of the demons, the Asuras. Shukra Niti, students, is a part of the Niti Shastra tradition. Niti Shastra refers to policy science. So Shukra Niti is a text which focuses on the governance of the political system. The Shukra Niti emphasizes on 2 important functions of the king: protection of the subjects and punishment of the guilty. Coming to the next important text, Brihaspati Sutra. Brihaspati, the teacher of intra-cosmic gods, where it is said that God created king in his own image for the creation of order in society. Interestingly, Brihaspati Sutra focuses also on revenue collection. A good king would protect the wealth of the people, help in the development of that wealth, and create a sense of righteousness charity, love. Brihaspati Sutra also focuses on an elaborate system of justice. The focus in on the proportionate justice delivery system. The last important text focuses on the Dravidian tradition, Kural of Thiruvalluvar. It is a collection of 1,330 couplets, and these couplets are organized into 133 chapters. Basically, it's a reflection of the cultural values of the Tamil people during the Sangam period under the rule of the Pandyans. Kural is divided into three broad segments: Aram, Porul, and Inbam. Aram refers to righteousness or dharma, the sense of duty. Porul refers to earth, wealth, as the basis of society. Inbam refers to love. While the first part of the text speaks about the art of living a righteous life, the second part speaks about the principles of polity and economy. The third part speaks about ethical principles. And it is said that a king who has a strong military, efficient citizens, resources, advisors, friends, is as strong as a lion. Now, students, all these texts focus on political ideas and precepts prevalent in ancient India. If you have noticed, students, that the principles that this text enunciated are very, very contemporary. Literary sources of ancient Indian thought give us an understanding of how Indian statecraft and governance originated in India, and they have not been implanted from Western ideas. Thank you.